Let me tell you about that day. It wasn't even a particularly special day to start with, just another Tuesday shift delivering food for quick eats. The sun was starting to dip low, painting the sky orange and purple, which usually cheers me up a bit, but mostly I was just tired. My feet hurt, my back ached from leaning over the handlebars of my beat-up scooter, and all I could think about was getting home, maybe grabbing some cheap noodles and crashing. This last delivery was way out in the ritzy part of town, the kind of place I usually only saw in movies. Big gates, long winding driveways, houses that looked more like small castles than actual homes. I always felt a little out of place buzzing up to these places on my sputtering scooter, wearing my slightly too big company polo shirt and carrying a thermal bag that had definitely seen better days. The address led me to this massive place. Seriously, the gates were taller than me, black wrought iron with fancy swirls. They actually creaked open electronically as I approached, which felt weirdly dramatic. I drove slowly up the driveway, which felt like it was a mile long, gravel, crunching under my tires. The house itself, wow. Stone walls, huge windows reflecting the sunset, and a garden that looked like something out of a magazine. I felt like I should have wiped my feet before even getting off my scooter. I parked near the enormous front door. Double doors, carved wood, looked like they belonged on a church. I took a deep breath, grabbed the food bag, 2 large pizzas, garlic bread, couple of sodas, someone was hungry, and walked up the steps. I felt small, like an ant approaching a giant's doorstep. I pressed the fancy brass doorbell. I could hear a faint, elegant chime inside. I waited, shifted my weight, adjusted the bag on my shoulder, waited some more. The silence felt heavy. Finally, one of the massive doors opened, but only a crack. A woman stood there. She wasn't old, maybe 50s, dressed very smartly in a dark gray dress, hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt. She had thin lips and eyes that scanned me up and down like I was something unpleasant she'd found on her shoe. Yes? Her voice was sharp, clipped, not welcoming at all. Hi, I stammered, holding up the bag slightly. Delivery, for, I checked the slip again, suddenly nervous. Albright? From Quick Eats? She sniffed. It was a tiny sound, but it carried a ton of disapproval. We didn't order takeaway. Oh, I said, confused. But this is the address. Arthur Albright? Mr. Albright does not order pizza, she said, the way you might say toxic waste. Especially not delivered to the front door. Service entrance is around the back for deliveries, though, as I said, we're not expecting anything. My cheeks started to feel hot. Service entrance? I was just trying to deliver the food someone ordered. Look, maybe there's a mistake, but the order came through with this name and address. Could you just check maybe? Arthur Albright? She sighed, a long, suffering sound. There is no need to check. You have the wrong house, clearly. Now, if you'll please leave the premises. She started to close the door. Wait, I said, maybe a bit louder than I meant to. I was feeling frustrated now and embarrassed. Could you just ask him? It's paid for online already. Maybe someone else in the house ordered it? Her eyes narrowed. Are you questioning me, young man? I manage this household. I know what is ordered and what isn't. People like you shouldn't be bothering residents at the main entrance. Go away. People like you. That stung. Like because I was wearing a uniform and riding a scooter, I was somehow less human, less deserving of basic politeness. I felt a lump form in my throat. It wasn't the first time I'd been treated like this on a delivery, but standing on the steps of this huge, imposing mansion, it felt worse somehow. More dismissing. I just nodded, defeated. Okay, sorry to bother you. My voice came, out quiet, a bit shaky. I turned away, the heavy food bag suddenly feeling 10 times heavier. The rejection felt cold, settling deep in my chest. I just wanted the day to be over. I started walking back towards my scooter, my head down, watching the gravel crunch under my worn-out sneakers. Then, I heard it. A voice from inside the house, muffled at first, then clearer as the big door swung fully open. It wasn't the woman's. Sharp tone. This was an older man's voice, a bit frail but with a definite strength underneath. Helen? Who was that at the door? Was that the food? The woman, Helen, sounded flustered. Mr. Albright. It was just a delivery boy with the wrong address. I sent him away. Wrong address? The man's voice grew louder, closer. Was he... Did you see his face? What did he look like? I had stopped walking halfway back to my scooter. I turned around, curious despite myself. An old man was stepping out onto the porch, leaning on a cane. He had white hair, kind of thin on top, and wore a soft-looking cardigan over a shirt. He looked worried. He squinted out into the fading light, his eyes searching. Helen was trying to shepherd him back inside. Sir, please, it's getting chilly. It was no one important. But the old man wasn't listening. His eyes landed on me. They widened. His mouth fell open slightly. He took a shaky step forward, gripping his cane tightly. Leo? He breathed. His voice was suddenly filled with disbelief, recognition. I froze. Leo. That's my name. How did he... I didn't know this man. I'd never seen him before in my life. Had I? He took another step, faster now, almost stumbling. Helen rushed to steady him, looking utterly bewildered. Leo! The old man called out again, much louder this time, his voice cracking with emotion. He ignored Helen, his gaze fixed entirely on me. Tears started to well up in his eyes, rolling down his wrinkled cheeks. He started hurrying towards me, as fast as his legs and cane would allow, a look of pure, heart-stopping shock and joy on his face. Helen trailed behind him, murmuring, Mr. Albright, please, be careful. Who is Leo? He reached the bottom of the steps, still staring at me, like he'd seen a ghost, or maybe an angel. I just stood there, rooted to the spot, the pizza bag dangling forgotten from my hand. My heart was pounding like crazy. What was happening? He stopped right in front of me, his breath coming in short gasps. He reached out a trembling hand, not quite touching me, his eyes searching my face desperately. It is you, he whispered, his voice thick with tears. Leo, my grandson, my dear boy. Grandson. The word hit me like a physical blow. Grandson. This man. My grandfather? It couldn't be. My mom. She never talked about her dad. Not really. Just vague mentions of a falling out years ago, before I could even remember much. She'd always said he wasn't interested in us, that he lived in his own world, that they didn't speak. I'd never seen a picture. I had no memory of him. My image of him, built from scraps of my mom's bitterness, was of some cold, distant figure who didn't care. But the man standing in front of me, tears streaming down his face, looking at me with such raw emotion, he didn't look cold. He looked heartbroken and overjoyed. I don't understand, I managed to say. My own voice sounded strange, distant. Helen, the housekeeper, looked like she might faint. Her jaw was practically on the gravel. Grandson? She stammered, looking back and forth between me and Mr. Albright. Yes, Helen, my grandson, Mr. Albright said, his voice choked up. He finally reached out and put his trembling hand on my arm. His touch was surprisingly warm. Leo, I can't believe it. After all these years, you're here. He looked down at the pizza bag still clutched in my other hand, then back up at my face, then at my uniform. A look of dawning horror crossed his features. You were delivering... Oh, my dear boy. And Helen. She turned you away? He turned to Helen, his voice suddenly stern, though still shaky. Helen, this is Leo. My daughter Sarah's boy. My grandson. Helen went pale. Mr. Albright, I had no idea. I am so terribly sorry. He said the name, but I didn't connect. She looked at me, her eyes wide with apology. Now. Young man? Leo? Please forgive me. I was rude. Unforgivably rude. I couldn't even process her apology. My mind was reeling. Grandson. This mansion owner. My grandfather. The pieces were falling into place in a way that made my head spin. My mom's vague stories, her sadness sometimes, her refusal to talk about her family. It wasn't because he didn't care. It was because something broke. Badly. Come inside, boy, Mr. Albright said, his grip tightening on my arm, as if afraid I might vanish. Please, come inside. We need to talk. Forget the pizzas. He chuckled wetly, wiping at his eyes with his free hand. We'll have Cook make us something proper. Come on. He started leading me towards the house. I numbly let him. I felt like I was walking in a dream. Helen scurried ahead, opening the massive door wide this time. As I stepped over the threshold, leaving my dusty scooter and the forgotten pizza delivery behind, I stepped into a world I never knew existed. A world where carved wood doors led to plush carpets and echoing hallways. But more than that, I stepped into a past I never knew I had. Into the presence of a grandfather I'd never met, who apparently hadn't forgotten me at all. Who had rushed out, tears in his eyes, calling my name. The woman, Helen, had dismissed me like I was nothing, just some annoying delivery boy. But the owner of the mansion, this stranger who was somehow my blood, had seen me, really seen me, and called me family. Sitting awkwardly on a velvet couch that probably cost more than my scooter, watching my grandfather, pace back and forth trying to explain the years of silence, the arguments with my mom, the missed birthdays, the regret. It was overwhelming. There were old photos, me as a toddler I didn't recognize, held by a younger version of this man. There were explanations, apologies, more tears, from both of us this time. It wasn't a magic fix. There were years of hurt and misunderstanding hanging in the air. There was my mom to think about, how she would react. But in that moment, the exhaustion I'd felt earlier was gone, replaced by a swirling mix of shock, confusion, and a strange, tentative warmth. The sting of being rudely dismissed faded, overshadowed by the unbelievable reality of being found. I wasn't just the delivery boy anymore. I was someone's grandson. And that changed everything.